Well, here we are a few days later, and now you can see the skeleton of this boat. You can see the rigging tube, that's one of them. That had the bilge pump wires and the bilge pump supply, bait well supply, and the bait well drain in it. You'll see that's where those came out. And then the other rigging tube had all the battery wires, steering, gas line, power to the rest of the boat, everything like that. You see, I got all the floors cut up now. I've got almost all the foam dug out. What a job, I'm telling you. Whew. I've used the shovel, I've used the hammer, I've used every tool for destruction you can think of. The saw with 1-foot blades in it to saw this stuff up. The oscillating tool cut, circular saw to cut the floors up. And I have one more space right there to do with the wires in it. Now, I guess they were going to have the trolling motor batteries in the back and was going to run the wires up to the front. But I have the batteries in this bow compartment here, and the wires run up to the trolling motor there. It would have worked either way. I think people were trying to figure out how to lighten up the back end, because now there's probably 1,000 pounds of water in the foam under the floor. So this boat was just dragging around through the water. That's why the scuppers were 4 inches below the water line. And that's why, when I first bought this boat, I looked at the tires. I thought, they're probably low. They were squat down like they had a big load on them. And I thought, they're radials. But I've never seen a radial trailer tire, but they probably are. And I thought, well, I'll put air in them. And then when I checked the air, and they had the 50 pounds on them like they're supposed to. I said, And I never could figure out why the tires were squatted down. I never could figure out why the boat, the scuppers were 4 inches underwater. Although the boat ran fine, the owner before me, he had put trim tabs on it. He put a jack plate on it. I see he put a different prop on the motor. So he was trying to combat the problem, but he probably didn't know that it was waterlogged under the floor either. And I mean, this foam is like the stupidest thing I can think of. Now, I know I started to mention it the other day. Now, boats, according to the Coast Guard, boats under 22 feet are supposed to be foam filled so they have level flotation. And that's probably great for the first 6 months. And after that, you don't have flotation, because every one of these compartments has a hole to the next compartment. Let's see. And every one of these rigging tubes let water in. So once you let the water in to the foam, then the foam gets soaked, and then the water runs onto the next compartment. And it soaks that foam, so all the foam pretty soon is soaked. You have no flotation, and if something was to happen, like you capsized or you took a giant wave over or something, you would just sink like a rock because you have no flotation. So boats over 22 feet, from my understanding, they're allowed to have sealed air space under the floor instead of foam. And that's what I'm going to do, because I would never have foam. It's worthless. I mean, there's a guy called Fish Bump TV on YouTube, and he's an expert. He's been building boats all his life, and his dad did. And there's probably nobody knows more about building boats than he does. And he said he puts foam in them because, well, he's a Coast Guard approved builder. So he has to. But he said water should never get to the foam. So, I mean, I agree, but every boat I've seen always has compartments, and every compartment's got a hole in it to the next compartment. I'd climb up in here. Ouch. Set on a cleat. That felt good. Okay. Yeah. All right. See that one there? Those are holes into this compartment. And then there's a hole to the next compartment. And there's a hole to the next compartment. And so and here's ones here, there's holes. So there's the rigging tube, which you could see daylight right around it. And there's that one had nothing in it. So when any water that got in the bilge, I'm about to fall down here. Any water that gets into the bilge then runs into every compartment because they're all open. You can see up there in front, even all the way to the bow. Every compartment has a hole to the next compartment. And so from day one, your boat starts sinking. It is ridiculous. I mean, it gets heavier. They order to do is you buy a boat and you take it back every year and see if it's gained 500 pounds. And it has, it'd make the dealer find out where that water's at. And then that would stop it. Because this is crazy. Have all these compartments open to the foam gets full of water, then you have no flotation, then the boat's 1,000 pounds heavier. There's only 6 people or 900 pounds. That's what the plate is on this boat. 19 and a half foot. And it was already sinking. It was close to sinking, It was barely above the water. It was kind of worried me when I was out fishing. So I was going to figure out a solution and thought I would just add more boat, would be more buoyancy, until I started ripping the floors up, and then I seen it was all full of water. So that's what we found so far, and let that fan run in there and try to dry out some of these because they still have water, right? This boat has been in a dry garage. It's like 100 degrees in this garage if I don't have the air on, because I'm in Southwest Florida, and metal buildings love to be ovens. So even though I have some insulation on the ceiling and the walls, I come out here the other day, if no air is on, it's over 100 degrees in here. So the boat's sitting in the dry, 100 degrees. I pull these floors up, they're soaked like it was been in the water yesterday. So this foam would never, ever dry out. And some people will say, well, they got holes in between them so that you can jack the boat up and drain the water out of the hull. It would never drain out, I'm telling you. Just real world experience. It would never dry out. It'd probably take 100 years in the desert before it might dry out under the floors. I'd probably rot the floors through first. And that's usually what happens with these boats. The floors rot out. Nobody wants to fix them, and they junk them. And a few crazy people like me decide, I'll fix it. I mean, I only know one mode, and that's fix. So I said, I'll fix it. Well, and I'm still going to probably lengthen the boat back here. I'll tear out all these old stringers here and rebuild all this back here and lengthen it a couple feet. That'll be in another video, many other videos. It's going to take a while. So that's where I'm at today. I have one more space under the console because I can't move this T-top and console by myself. So I have one more space to dig out. I'm in there digging like a groundhog underneath there, piece by piece, that foam. So one more space there, and then I can just let it all dry out and then go back to worrying about the stringers and all this back here and check the transom and see if it's solid. The knees look good, but you never know till you drill in and see what the wood's like inside. So that's where we're at. and working my butt off with every tool you could think of to cut and pull and shovel, and a crowbar and wonder bar and drill and auger. And oh yeah, let me show you my little auger. Boy. So this turned out to be a real handy thing. I can drill in that foam and go down the corners where the water's setting under the foam. I can drill that out. Put that down. Oh yeah. Make sure you got Band-Aids. You're gonna get cut every time you turn around on this fiberglass and wood. Anyway, I can drill down that auger in there, get me a hole started. Then I take a saw saw, drill more chunks out. Then I take the shovel and pry more chunks out. I mean, it is a job. I know. I seen a guy on YouTube who took a hand grinder to it and just grinded it into dust and ground it out. Man, that must have made a mess. I'm trying to get chunks out. I mean, when I can get a big chunk out, I feel like, yay! Instead of having to, I've got 10 big bags of foam. I'm gonna take to the dump or put in the trash every week, but you know, it comes out mostly in hand-sized chunks. But you know, as we can see, this is quite the job here. Whew. I didn't know it'd be this much work, but that's how projects are. They're lots of work, way more work, and always way more money than you thought. So I'll get back in a couple of days and we'll see what else I tore up. Bye.